Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Was getting my notes ready for Nebraska defensive deep dive that we do every single week. And as I was getting my prep ready, I kind of realized something a little bit more special that I wanted to talk about, and that is the young talent that is stepping up for Nebraska. And although it's so exciting to see this team have a chance to go on the road to East Lansing and get to 6 wins in early November, hard not to take a little bit of a peek into what this Nebraska team is going to look like in 2024 and in 2025 when all of this young talent continues to develop under Coach Matt Rhule. And what's even more impressive is this Nebraska program just seems to be ahead of schedule in terms of what Coach Rhule normally does at college football programs, right? You go back to his time at Temple and Baylor. The first years are normally really ugly. And then you start seeing the dividends get paid off year 2, year 3, and year 4. You look at Nebraska, it seems like they're a little bit of ahead of schedule in terms of what Matt Rhule is trying to do in Lincoln. And if you're a Nebraska fan, not only are you extremely excited about what you're going to see in the month of November and the games that they should be winning, but also like what this team is going to look like in 2024 and 2025. Kind of want to break down some of the young talent and building blocks we're seeing emerge. Now, before we get into it, just want to say thank you to the Nebraska fans again. Got my Husker quarter zip on. This has been a program that I've loved talking about. The amount of support from the Nebraska fans, it's been just absolutely amazing. So if you guys do enjoy the content, you want to support the fellas, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, I'm going to be shouting out a bunch of young names that have been stepping up. If I leave one out, if I leave a name out that you're excited about, let me know in the comment section. We'll start chopping it up. Without further ado, let's get into this one. And you got to start at the position groups that have really been hammered with injuries that have just forced young talent to step up. And I think the best example of this is in that wide receiver room and the running back room, right? You take a look at the wide receiver room. This Nebraska team comes into 2023, Billy Kemp, veteran guy in the transfer portal, Marcus Washington, IGC, all three of those guys no longer playing due to injury. Hopefully Billy Kemp back soon. What does that happen? And this was already a wide receiver room that was in to begin with. You have to start relying on some of the young true freshmen to play meaningful snaps and go out and win you football games. That's exactly what we've been seeing happen. And in terms of a development standpoint, I mean, these guys, Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss, Jalen Lloyd, these guys traditionally would be true freshmen running with the scout team, running the opposing team's offense, not getting much work in practice. And Matt Rhule always pays attention to the scout team guys. He's kind of noted for that. He talks about it all the time in the press conference. But more importantly for these guys, their development cycle is just getting expedited, right? Because now they're running with the wide receiver ones in practice. They're playing significant snaps on Saturday. They're getting that in-game experience. Guys like Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss, Jalen Lloyd are now just having and experiencing an accelerated developmental cycle. So when they take the field in 2024 as true sophomores, I mean, they're not going to be from a playing experience. They're going to be a lot more experienced than most other true sophomores across the country. And you can say the same thing for the running back room, right? You're heading into the season. Gabe Irvin, running back one, Anthony Grant, Ramir Johnson, some veteran guys. And then all three go down. Well, yeah, two go down with injury, and Anthony Grant struggling with the fumbles. And what happens? Redshirt freshman Emmett Johnson having to shoulder the load, guy that we didn't really even talk about heading into the year. And he's a guy that looks like he's got a ton of juice. And so you're looking at this wide receiver room, you're looking at this running back room, guys that you didn't really think would be massive contributors for Nebraska year one are all of a sudden being the playmakers Nebraska has to rely on to go out and win football games. You look at the offensive line, again, guys going down, Turner, Cochran, and company, Ethan Piper. You look at this offensive line, a lot of these guys that we weren't necessarily counting on to win football games and play significant snaps have to come in and play significant snaps. So you look at this roster on the offensive side of the ball, and you're having a ton of young guys have to step up. And when you have to step up, it's trial by fire, and you have to make it work. You're getting thrown out into the deep end, and you got to swim or sink. And a lot of these guys not only are swimming, but really figuring it out. And you look towards that 2024 year, and you have to be really excited about what you're going to get from some of these young guys. And I kind of view it as the foundational building blocks of this Matt Rhule era. Guys like Malachi Coleman, guys like Emmett Johnson, the dudes that will be around for the next couple years that Matt Rhule will be relying on. It seems like the development process for a lot of these guys has been accelerated in meaningful ways. And everything we just said on the offensive side of the ball, that's where a lot of the injuries have been. One, this defense has been great. Two, you're getting a lot of young talent step up on the defensive side of the ball too. And before we get to the young talent, guys like Prince Will U, Cam Lenhart, I think it's important to appreciate what this defense is going to look like in year two under Coach Tony White. Because as a Michigan fan, we brought in a new defensive coordinator. And yeah, we saw improvements year one, but you still saw some growing pains and some blown assignments and guys necessarily thinking too much on the scheme and not really playing and reacting. In year two, that stuff starts to go away because you got a full calendar year with this defensive scheme and what your job is and what your responsibilities are. So you look at, from before we get into the specific players, you're looking at a Tony White defense that's going to be going into year two with a lot of guys that have played meaningful snaps in this system. It is, I mean, this Nebraska defense has been phenomenal this year. I think you're going to even see another step in 2024 under year two of this 3-3-5. And let's start up front with the guy that we talked about a lot in the offseason, but we kind of said when we talked about Prince Will U, it was a lot of a really talented guy. He's going to be a true freshman, probably needs a redshirt year, get some weight on him. He's going to be really good year two, year three, year four. Prince Will U has been really good year one, and you saw him get his feet wet. You look at the last 3 games, or 2 games, I should say, 40 snaps against Northwestern, 43 snaps against Purdue. He's registered 6 quarterback hurries, a sack. He doesn't look like a true freshman out there playing football. Really good in the run game, ton of juice in the pass rush. And again, it's hard to believe that this guy 12 months ago was playing on a high school football field. You go look at Cam Lenhart, very similar story. Now, Cam Lenhart dealing with some injuries, but he's been a guy that in his limited opportunity has played some really good football. Coming from IMG Academy, you thought he'd be more the guy that would be ready to play as a true freshman, just a little bit more meat on his bones. Both him and Prince Will U have been really good players for Nebraska up front. You talk about building blocks like we did on the offensive side of the ball. And Prince Will U, Cam Lenhart, those are some serious building blocks that you have on the defensive side of the ball too. You go and look back at the second level here, and there are a lot of young guys that are stepping up in massive ways. Malcolm Hartzog probably would be an NFL dude if he was able to leave. He's got another year of eligibility at the least going into his 3rd year in 2024. What you're looking at on this defense, and another comment to have is a lot of these guys are experienced, but a lot of these guys have another years of eligibility, whether it's due to the COVID, whether it's due to a red shirt. This is a Nebraska team that a lot of these guys playing on defense, I think, are NFL caliber dudes. But when you look at, and I think Michigan, hate to bring up Michigan again, but when you look at Michigan had a lot of guys that could have gone to the NFL last year, but they felt something special and they decided to come back for one more year. You look at Matt Rhule and the culture that's getting put into this Nebraska team and the opportunity that they have to kind of build off this season into next. I would not be surprised if a lot of these guys, again, kind of bleed Nebraska football, are coming back for another year. I don't think it's crazy to look at this defense and have most of your returning production back in 2024 that you had in 2023. That's when it gets exciting, right? You take a really complicated defensive scheme in Tony White, and you get those guys involved in it and running it in 2023, and then you give them a whole nother year to get better at it heading into 2024. That's when I think you could see this Nebraska defense that's already played at an elite level in 2023 take it up a notch in 2024. If you're a Nebraska fan, and again, this is kind of what when I was going through this and getting ready for the defense, I started realizing a lot of these guys might be back in 2024. That's, in my mind, what's so exciting. You're getting a lot of momentum on the football field in 2023. I think we're going to get to 6 wins. I think this team is just, whether it's 6 wins or not, you eyeball test it. This team is playing better every single week. Not only are you winning games in 2023, but you take a look at 2024 and what Matt Rhule is doing on the recruiting trail in that 2024 cycle, what he's going to do in the transfer portal, already going after some guys at the JUCO ranks. This roster is going to continue to build its talent and depth, But more importantly, this roster is going to return a lot of guys from 2023, have that culture, stay put that Matt Rhule has implemented. That, in my opinion, is when it gets fun for Nebraska in 2024. I mean, we're going to be talking about this a lot. Matt Rhule is going to get active in the transfer portal. This team is going to become more talented heading into 2024. But the key is when you use the transfer portal, you want to keep that culture in place. And with all of these guys returning, I certainly see that happening. If you're a Nebraska fan, the future of this program, it just seems so bright. We've been kind of craving it for the last decade. A lot of excitement around this program. I'm really excited about it. Again, Nebraska fans, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Next week, we'll be back to our normal defensive Husker breakdown. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas again. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.